When I think of earbuds, the first word that comes to mind is convenience. They're pretty much supposed to be one of the most accessible pieces of tech that you can literally store and access at a moment's notice. Since they're typically pretty small though, companies have to sacrifice in other areas of design while also trying to give you new features. This being said, there are times when companies focus too much on one area and not enough on another. Today, I'm going to be talking about my experience with these buds and what it's been like after having them for quite a bit of time. This is my long-term review of the Galaxy Buds Pro 2. The design of the Buds Pro 2 is a little different from its predecessor. Where the Buds Pro used glossy plastic mixed with a semi-matte plastic, the Buds Pro 2 is made of a matte plastic material that feels more like rubber in the hand. This gives the Buds Pro 2 and the case they come in a better grip when handling them, making it so that you have much less of a chance of dropping one of the buds themselves. They're also a tad bit smaller than the previous model, which in conjunction with the new plastic material gives the buds a better fit, but not a perfect one. Although this is debatable since it does depend on the shape of your ears and the humidity within them. When there is no moisture or humidity within your ears, the fit of these buds is generally very secure. But when moisture is present, these buds can start to loosen their seal. I've personally never had them actually fall out of my ears, or at least not that I can remember that happening. However, this can become an issue, especially when you're in noisy environments where a tight seal is all the more important for keeping in the sound you want to hear while keeping out the horrible soundtrack of the world around you. The inner material of these buds also tends to make my ear hurt after around an hour and a half of constant use. Like I said though, this all depends on the shape of your ears, and this is just my personal experience. The one thing Samsung Buds have always excelled at is the convenience factor, and the Buds Pro 2 continues this trend. There's literally almost no room for error when using these buds, and they're pretty much dead simple to store and operate. I think the usability factor of headphones and earbuds or any over-the-air instrument is something that is highly overlooked, but I will say that this is one of the factors that Samsung has definitely near perfected over the years. These earbuds just work, and the majority of the people who use them will probably overlook that fact that you can pretty much get these earbuds unpacked and operational within mere seconds of taking them out of the case. The connection between these buds and at least the Samsung phone is very stable. Not once have I experienced a disconnect at all. I've even tested out the distance, and I was pretty surprised actually. I was able to leave whatever device these buds were connected to in my studio and walk quite a bit of a distance away only to have them stay connected till I got back to my device. Now, mind you, there are obstructions between the device and the headphones, but nonetheless, the connection still stayed solid. One other aspect of connectivity that's pretty good is the seamless connection feature that allows your buds to switch back and forth between devices that are logged into your Samsung account. If you've owned the Galaxy Buds Plus, which is where this feature first started, then you'd know how convenient this auto device switching feature can be when it works right. In my experience, the buds correctly switch between all of my Samsung devices in the way I want them to most of the time, but there are times when I'm using the buds with my phone and they'll randomly connect with my tablet in another room. Luckily, this doesn't happen as much, and I mean, Samsung does dictate that this could potentially happen anyway. Active noise canceling is one of those features that many manufacturers do differently, but I think Samsung's way of doing it is pretty balanced for earbuds. I personally tend to judge active noise cancellation in two ways: what I can hear when the sound is off and what I can hear when it's on. I decided to do a rough test where I sat less than a foot away from a fan to see if I could hear it on its lowest setting. When no sound was playing, I could still hear the fan even though it was at its lowest setting. Once the sound was on, I had to turn the volume up to about 40 in order to drown out the sound of the fan, and again, this was on its lowest setting. On another rough test I did, I tried seeing if I could hear the tone my microwave generates once it's done, and needless to say, when sound was off, I could definitely hear it. It's a much higher pitched sound. But when sound was on, I did have to turn the volume up to 48, which is actually kind of not that bad if you think about it compared to the first test I did with the fan. Now, like I said, these are rough tests, however, but the idea here is that both the fan and the microwave generate sounds that are lower and higher in pitch. Given that I only had to turn the volume up to 48 to drown out the microwave, I would say that if you're trying to block out noise around you, then you should be able to either drown out all of that noise or about 97% of that noise when these buds are at their highest volume setting. Of course, this is going to depend on what you're listening to and how many instruments are being played and the type of instruments at that point, or even if you're listening to voice, it depends on the pitch of that voice. But I have to say that overall, I'm pretty happy with the noise cancellation of these earbuds, and that is in no small part due to the ANC and getting the perfect fit with the seal they create. The ambient sound feature on these buds has definitely been improved over previous iterations. It now loses that robotic sound it had on Samsung's previous buds and trades it for a more realistic and clearer sounding experience. So much so that anytime I'm in public, I pretty much use it. It also doesn't give you that dizzy feeling that previous iterations used to. These buds also have a voice detect feature, and I definitely approve of it and how well it works. It feels as natural as talking to someone without the buds in and can pick up when you're talking pretty quickly. You can also choose how long you'd like the mics to stay open, between 5, 10, or 15 seconds. Each bud comes with 3 signal to noise ratio mics, and they do a decent job of picking up sound. And I can't really say much more on this, but I do have 2 samples for you to make your own judgment, and I'll go ahead and play those right now. This is a test of the microphones on the Galaxy Buds Pro 2. I was supposed to do this test when I was down by the waterfall I was doing some footage at, but I forgot. So what can you hear? Can you hear my footsteps? Can you hear that plane above me? Can you hear the birds? This is yet another test of the microphones on the Galaxy Buds Pro 2. Can you hear all of the cars around me? Can you hear my son over here trying to sniff everything, looking as cute as ever? Can you hear all of the ambient sound around us? What do you hear? And does the mic sound clear? On to the most important aspect, which is pretty much the audio experience. So right off the bat, I'll say that it's above average, but it still leaves room to be desired. You do have to keep in mind that these are earbuds, and there's only so much that can be done with the woofer and tweeters inside of this relatively small space. Now, I am not an audiophile, nor do I consider myself to be close to one, but I'll do my best to explain the audio experience given my limited knowledge. So highs like flutes can be heard with a balanced clarity and aren't too overbearing or muffled in that case. The mids can also be heard clearly along with all of the other instruments and aren't forgotten or suppressed like with some other earbuds out there. The lows are where my room to be desired comment comes from though. It's not that you can't hear them, but they could stand to be a little bit deeper than they are. This has been my experience even when enabling the Bass Boost Equalizer preset and when trying to use the custom settings. Like I said, you can hear them, but just don't expect to feel them. I do have some audio samples prepared for you all. The first one might be kind of unorthodox. I kind of got the idea while I was testing remote play on my PlayStation, so I figured I would just kind of actually play a game and then basically connect my earbuds to my tablet while I was doing so. And of course, you know, with games, you're gonna have highs, lows, and mid sounds and everything like that. So that's the idea behind that. Second one is just going to be some music. So let's get right into that, and maybe you can hear how these sound. Of course, you know, when you have these in your ears, it's going to sound totally different, but this should give you an idea. Oh, and also go ahead and adjust your volume so I don't break your eardrums, because I won't be turning the volume down for the next 2 samples. So go ahead and do that right now, please. All right, so those were just 2 examples of what audio quality would be like when using these earbuds. Now, of course, like I said, once again, you're gonna have to have these in your ears just to see how they sound. But another thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that these earbuds can actually reach some pretty high volumes. I think at the highest I've seen them is about 99 decibels, and that was actually recording using one of the dedicated mics you've seen me use in the past 2 examples. So if you're worried about loudness, then that's kind of how loud they can get, sort of accurate, I guess. One of the big features Samsung touted with the release of the Buds Pro 2 is the 24-bit audio feature. And what having this feature is supposed to do for you is allow you to hear more of the frequency ranges in the music you listen to, or rather even the sound you listen to if it's not music. To test out this 24-bit audio feature, I exported a track I was making in both 16-bit and 24-bit. And the result for me was that the track, which is not mixed or edited correctly since that's not knowledge I possess, did end up sounding a bit more clear, no pun intended. I could normally hear all of the instruments I put into my track when I did encode in 16-bit, but with 24-bit encoding, I was able to hear them more clearly without them distorting at higher volumes. Now, the thing with this 24-bit audio feature is that most of the music you're going to listen to is going to be mixed and mastered in such a way that you would have rarely heard distortion at higher volumes anyway. So I'm not really sure how much 24-bit audio matters, but I will say that it does make somewhat of a difference, although I can't say it's a significant difference, I guess. Samsung claims that you can get 5 hours of battery life with ANC on and 8 hours with ANC off. The charging case should be able to recharge your buds at least 3 times with the battery of the buds depleted. To go ahead and test what the battery life would be like, I decided to leave my buds out and connect it to my tablet and found a 3-hour video to play. I started this test at 5:48 p.m. and came back to check on the buds at 7:01 p.m. and by this time the battery had been drained by 18%, leaving the buds with 82% of battery life left. On my second go around with this test, I started again at 7:02 and let the buds run for another hour, and this time the battery life was drained by 14%, leaving the buds at 68%. After doing these 2 battery drain tests, I put the buds back in their case at 8:05 and checked how much they'd been charged at 8:42 p.m. and surprisingly, they were fully charged and the case only used 7% of its power to get them back to full. Now, needless to say, the battery life on these buds is very efficient, and even if they don't reach that 5-hour claim, which I'm pretty sure they would, you'd still have enough battery to spare for the day, especially given the fact that the case is so efficient at charging both earbuds. To summarize everything here, the Galaxy Buds Pro 2 are earbuds that have undergone design changes that do contribute to a better fit, more stability, and better handling. Those design changes will certainly be a benefit, but they aren't a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, since it will depend on factors outside of one's control. These buds continue the convenience trend set by Samsung's previous buds by being able to be stored and accessed within seconds of attempting to do so. The connection between these buds is very stable, but that should come as no surprise, honestly. The seamless connection feature is especially useful considering that these buds cannot connect to multiple devices at once. Active noise canceling does what it's supposed to do, but is better when you have something playing rather than just passively trying to block out sound when something isn't. The ambient sound feature does a very good job of letting you hear what's around you in really good detail without sounding as if you have the ears of a robot. The microphones that come with these earbuds can definitely get the job done, but you'll want to be aware of where you're using them at the time. Audio quality of these earbuds is nowhere near subpar, but deeper tones like bass leave something to be desired. 24-bit audio is a nice feature to have, but I worry about how useful or practical it would be, especially when access to the format is pretty limited right now. The battery life of these buds is pretty amazing, and you'd be really hard-pressed to not get at least a day's worth of use out of them. So yeah, the Galaxy Buds Pro 2 definitely brings some worthy upgrades in areas they were needed in, and I do definitely like the fact that Samsung has redone their design, but I still think there's some room to grow with finding the perfect fit, if it even exists. If I had to make a recommendation based on being asked to, I would definitely say if you have a Samsung phone, you'll definitely want to check these buds out as they are the easiest to work with when using Samsung's ecosystem. You could definitely use these buds with any and every phone out there, however, you might not be able to use every feature these buds come with. So that is pretty much all I have for you, and I do hope that you got something out of this video. As always, if you did get something out of this video and think that it would be worth sending to someone else, I would greatly appreciate something like a share or something like a like, or, you know, the typical YouTuber asking questions, which I don't usually like to do, but I gotta be realistic. I gotta get products and I gotta review them for you all. So yeah, I'm asking for help. Anyway, with that being said, wherever you are in the world, have a great day, a great afternoon, a great evening, or a great night, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.